Hello fellow humans, I'm Josh and welcome to the Madhouse. How is everyone? I hope you're alright. If not, well, have a hug. I could do with a hug, but I'm going to settle for a rather large amount of coffee. As you've probably guessed from the fact that I have coffee and that blackboard behind me, I'm attempting to revive the coffee in a chat thing I started. Haven't done it for a while because I haven't drunk coffee in a long time. But it's back. And there's something big I really want to talk about, but let me explain a little first. I watched The Imitation Game last night, or was it Tuesday? Time isn't something I'm good at, but in the last few days anyway, and I really enjoyed it. It was an excellent film, I thought. Benedict Cumberbatch performed the role exceptionally well, and Alan Turing has always been a hero of mine. And while watching it, my parents and my brother as well, although him later, both compared me to Alan Turing, which I was chuffed to bits about. They both said that we were exceptionally bright people, and by bright they meant genius level, which really stoked my ego. That we were both flamingly gay, although he of course had to hide it, but it was fairly apparent from the mannerisms we saw in the film at least. And then also that we were quite clueless outside of our particular fields. My fields are somewhat wider and not so detailed as Turing's was, but even so, outside of my little field of experience, I am screwed. While that was a great ego boost, that wasn't what I wanted to talk about. I remember reading a review where somebody complained about the Imitation Game and how the director was apparently skirting around Turing's homosexuality by not showing a sex scene. Now, you can imagine how that made me feel, given that I'm openly demisexual and quite indifferent to sex and things most of the time. But beyond that, it made me think about something. The presentation of gay relationships and sex in film and television. And by gay relationships, I do mean same gender couples of any sort, be they male or female, or cisgender or trans, whatever. Although my main frame of reference is to cisgendered male homosexuals, because that's what the majority of the media out there shows, unfortunately. They don't seem to think that LGBT can be anything but little l, big G, nothing else. I should have added the plus to the end of that, but they don't pay any attention to it anyway. I mean, first of all, why is the non-inclusion of a sex scene necessarily a bad thing? I mean, including sex can be a good thing, in fact. It does nothing for me really, but other people enjoy it and it shows a cementing of someone's relationship, yes. But then I thought a little deeper, and out of the popular and well-known gay films I've watched, there's things like Brokeback Mountain, Shelter, Maurice, Latter Days, that's a dirty one, and Freefall. There's practically no relationships between the gay characters at all. It's mainly focusing on his relationship with his pregnant fiancée. Or Death in Venice, Were the World Mine. That's a great film actually, although I quite like the use of Shakespeare in Midsummer Night's Dream for it. Prayers for Bobby, and even Milk, despite being written by a gay man. I mean, some of the others may have been, but Milk, it's iconic. I can only name 2 gay films where there isn't a sex scene. There's The Birdcage, which is a family comedy where it's not really necessary, which is a point I'll come to later, and A Single Man, which is, funnily enough, one of my favourites, not because it doesn't have a sex scene, because it's wonderfully written. Although not having a sex scene doesn't mean it isn't sexually charged, because there is a lot of sexual tension. It made me think, have we been trained to associate homosexuality with sex? While heterosexuality can be associated with just sex, but there are far more examples of it being just romantic, or a combination of the two. And the reason I thought of that was because how to put this into words? I thought of that because after listing off a bunch of films and the fact that I can see at least 10 heterosexual. I can see at least 10 films on my shelf there which are heterosexual and do not involve sex, that are not aimed at children. So they can portray it without it. Whereas, speaking of aiming at children, many children's programs refuse to even acknowledge homosexuality exists. One of my favourite programs from when I was a child was Static Shock. It's a great superhero series. And it was applauded for its diverse cast of characters, having people of various different races and them working together, and it was great for that. But it was also problematic. Why? Because in the comic, Static's sidekick, whose name is Rick in the comic, is openly gay. But in the series, any mention of his sexuality, anything to do with the fact that he might possibly be gay or anything other than straight, is, what's that popular word flung around on the internet nowadays? Erased. While of course Static pursued female love interests. There was no sex because it's a children's program, but the point being, they seem to think that a homosexual relationship, or even just someone realising that they have a crush on a member of the same sex, was inappropriate. And I don't get it, because it's just a relationship between two people, and let's face it, they're teenagers. They get spots, they get hair in unpleasant places, and they get crushes on people. They're not always sexual, sometimes they're romantic, or sometimes people don't have them at all. But what could be more natural than someone developing a crush on someone? That the recipient is of the same sex should be completely irrelevant in this matter, but it isn't, because heterosexuality is still defined as the norm. There has to be some sort of sex to prove that they're gay, almost, which is not going to happen in a children's program, and I don't like it. There are of course modern programs which are attempting to work on this. For example, Steven Universe has several same-sex female partnerships, or at least one or two. I've not watched it, I've just seen a hell of a lot of things on Tumblr. It's rather popular for some reason. And they have to come up with an excuse for it, that they're not actually female, that they're agendered rocks, magical rocks. So it's actually perfectly acceptable. No, there doesn't need to be an excuse. There are two people and they fall in love and they happen to be in female bodies. Why do you need to use some sort of justification? Same-sex love is just as valid as opposite-sex love. I hate the term opposite for that, but that's what it would be called. It's time for a rethink about how we view love and sex and relationships, and more importantly, how we portray it in the media. We need to have more accurate portrayals of these things, which is why we need more queer writers out there, not just cis, white, homosexual men. We need more than that, and I know I can fall into that group, although really I'm agender, so the cis part doesn't really work. But even so, that's how we change things. It's of vital importance to see people like you in media. There isn't a need to have every single gay character have sex. If they do, then it's fine. But if they do, that's a bit odd, because does every single heterosexual character have to have sex to prove that they are heterosexuality? We are not a malformity. We are not some broken offshoot of what is actual and real. We are just as real and have just as valid feelings as anyone else. We need to work on this, because what's it going to do to some kid who is growing up and questioning their sexuality, and they look to films and television to show them that what they're feeling is real, that it's not just something made up? That's something that almost all queer people do. They realise that it's not crazy, that it actually exists, because of what they see and what they read and what they know. And if all they see of homosexual or non-cis-het people and relationships is hypersexualized, then that is the perception that they will come to have of themselves when they get older. And it's not healthy. Sex is fine, and it can be perfectly healthy for some people. Not everyone likes it, and that's fine. But too much of any good thing will spoil it. And that's it. I hope you understood what I was going on about there, because I'm fairly sure I've repeated myself several times, and I'm sorry. But I'm still mad, almost fuming, you might say. Well, I'm mad anyway, mad as a hatter in fact, but angry mad. On other notes though, I am actually, despite what you might think from looking at me and listening to me speak, quite happy today. I know it might not look like that from the way I was talking at the start of the video, but the reason for that is I've been trying to film this video for about an hour and it wasn't going right, so now I'm just saying stuff it and I'll do it anyway. And then I was doing one where it went quite well, and halfway through I spilt coffee down me. The main reason I'm happy though, because after about a month and a half of work, I have finally finished designing a bookmark. I mean, I make bookmarks all the time, some of them are worse than others, but this one is one I'm really pleased of. A Chinese dragon with individual scale detail on there. I drew this by hand, coloured it by hand, and then edited it on the computer to get this absolutely right. And on the back is a little message of my own. May your burdens in your life be light, the trials few and far between, the smiles plentiful, the fantasies beautiful, and the libraries always within reach, which I think is a great sentiment for a bookmark. And having finished that, I can finally send off Frankenstein and All I Know Now to Lien. After a month of saying I'm going to do it, I'm actually doing it. As soon as I can get to the post office, it will be done. And also, while I'm here, a little hint for something one of the videos I'm going to do in the next week or so. One will involve this rather cheap lipstick I picked up in the pound shop, and I'll leave you guessing why. And up there you'll see a notice board covered in ideas about madness, which is always my favourite topic. I'm also thinking I might try to increase the number of videos I do on this channel to about 3 a week, because I've been spending a lot of time doing absolutely nothing and going through Tumblr. And seeing as no one's going to hire me, I need to occupy myself somehow. And I've still got time for writing doing that. Don't forget the Letterbomb channel, which is now being properly launched because I made a few mistakes with it. There should be some videos coming up in the next few weeks and more discussions of this sort, but because I'm waiting for Lucy and Aurora to do their own introductions, this went up here instead of there. And as always, please click like and subscribe and share. Sharing makes me happy, especially if you share it with a nice little message or something, because it makes me smile. Smiling is good, isn't it? I'm still not good at being funny, but I can do creepy. Goodbye.